Welcome back to The Download. I'm Reid Mercer, and we've got 4 stories this week that all come back to the same question. Where's the money moving? First up, Comscore just wired transcript intelligence into Spotify, Acast, Sirius, and Triton. The pitch is that podcast ads finally buy like CTV. Big claim, and we've heard versions of it before. I want to see the mechanics before I sign off. Then there's Podium, the Roost rebrand, the Trisha Paytas signing, and it's pulling straight from a consolidation playbook I watched play out in radio 30 years ago. Triton's June numbers add another layer to that story. And everyone's arguing about Stephen Bartlett versus Joe Rogan like it's a horse race. Wrong argument. I'll tell you what the real fight is over. We'll also get into why true crime keeps turning into book deals and new discovery data suggesting the clip might matter more than the feed itself. Follow the money. That's what today's about. Let's open with Comscore, because somebody's betting $1 billion on this transcript play, and I want to know if the numbers actually hold up.
We want to hear from you. Submit questions via the web form in the description or give us a call at 747-234-2678 and leave your question. Don't be shy. Our AI assistant makes it super easy.
Comscore wants podcast ad buying to feel like buying CTV or display. Ad exchangers Anthony Vargas wrote that up this week. And that single sentence tells you everything about whose budget this industry is actually chasing. Follow the money. CTV and display budgets are enormous. They're programmatic, and podcasting has spent a decade locked out because buyers can't transact the way they do everywhere else. So, here's the mechanism. Comscore's Proximic platform is integrating with Acast, Libsyn, SiriusXM, Spotify, and Triton Digital to run transcript-level targeting, scanning what's actually said in an episode for contextual matching and brand safety. Sounds smart. Sounds inevitable, even. But nobody's asked the unit economics question out loud yet. Who pays to process every transcript across 5 platforms' catalogs? And once a network can prove an episode is brand safe and contextually relevant, who actually captures that CPM lift? The platform running the tech or the show that made the content targetable in the first place? That's not a small detail. That's the entire margin structure of this deal. Radio fought this exact war in the 90s. Once ratings got granular enough to prove which day parts and formats actually delivered, the stations with leverage kept the premium. Everyone else got commoditized. Same fight, new plumbing. Now pair that with the other headline this week. Insider Radio and Podcast News Daily both covered the Alliance for Measurement in Podcasting rolling out the AMP Accords, the industry's first real cross-platform measurement standard defining what even counts as a podcast. And attached to it a number everybody's repeating: $1 billion in new ad growth once these standards take hold. I want to stress test that. What baseline are they measuring against? What CPM assumption gets you to $1 billion? Because the podcast industry has promised a standardization windfall before. 3 separate times if you count IAB certification pushes and the download versus listener fights from the last decade. Each time, measurement got better. Each time, the money arrived slower and smaller than the press release implied.
The math doesn't math on $1 billion unless a huge chunk of display and CTV budget actually reallocates into audio. That's a demand-side bet, not a supply-side standard. So here's what to actually do with this. If you're running ad ops, go ask your team 2 questions this week. 1, who owns the transcript data once Comscore or Proximate processes it? And does your contract let a third party monetize insights derived from your own content? 2, how is your inventory being classified under the AMP Accords definition? Because that classification is what determines your eligibility for this new money, not your download count. If you're not gaming that out now, whoever's buying your inventory already has the answer, and it's probably not the one that favors you. But better measurement only matters if you're measuring inventory worth buying in the first place.
And that raises the real question. Who actually controls the top of the rankings right now? And who's rebranding this week to try to get there? Building on that measurement mess, let's follow the inventory itself. The Roost just rebranded as Podium, and their headline signing is Trisha Paytas and her show Just Trish, per this week's PR Newswire announcement. That's the 1990s radio playbook word for word. Rename the entity, sign a name with a built-in audience, sell the story to advertisers before you've proven the model works. Deadline's Jesse Whittock covered the same relaunch. Podium was formerly the talent arm behind some of the internet's biggest creators. Here's what the release didn't say. Is this a relaunch or a recapitalization? Those are different animals. A relaunch is new positioning on the same balance sheet. A recap means new money came in and old equity got wiped out. Podium didn't say which, and that detail tells you who's actually funding Paytas's rate card. Now, compare that scramble to the top of the market, because it's the opposite story. iHeart's audience network's still number one, 64.7 million average weekly downloads, with Audioboom and Cumulus holding second and third. Barely any movement, according to Podcast News Daily's report Thursday. That's what a mature, consolidated market looks like. Nobody's climbing. The leaderboard barely breathes month to month. If you're a network trying to break into that top tier, you're not competing on rankings anymore. You're competing on a marquee name, which is exactly why Podium bet the whole rebrand on one host. And there's a supply signal sitting underneath both stories. Podcast News Daily, citing Listen Notes, reported June saw just 8,257 new shows launch, the fewest of any month this year, while first-half activity overall came in stronger than expected. Fewer new entrants, stronger engagement on the shows already out there. For anyone holding inventory near that leaderboard, that's a favorable setup. Less noise competing for ad dollars, more proof those dollars convert. So the real question isn't who's launching, it's whether Podium's bet on Paytas proves talent still moves the needle in a market disconsolidated, or whether the platform matters more than the name on the marquee. Funny enough, that's the same question Stephen Bartlett's rise is about to force everyone to answer.
Building on that talent question, Stephen Bartlett is the case study now. The Times reported this weekend he's closing in on Joe Rogan, helped by Spanish and Russian dubs of Diary of CEO. Podcast News Daily picked up the same story today, floating that Bartlett could be podcast king by year's end. King of podcasting is a ranking. It's not a P&L, and I'd love for someone to stop treating those as interchangeable. Ask this instead. What's Bartlett's ad load compared to Rogan's? What's he actually getting per 15-second read? Nobody's publishing that number, and that's the number a media buyer needs before they move next year's budget. Rankings sell headlines. Rate cards sell shows. Now flip to true crime, because this is where the margin story gets clearer. True Crime ran a piece today tracing how the mystery podcast wave fed a book deal and memoir boom, cases like Amy Bradley's turning straight into print. Once a show's download curve flattens, you don't keep growing downloads. You license the IP sideways. Books, TV options, merch. And that's rewiring what a signing even means. Extra reported this week on a new show, The Slippery, built from the start to expose scammers, structured like a franchise from episode 1. So when a network signs that talent, it's not buying a podcast, it's buying a rights position with 3 or 4 formats stacked on top. Which is exactly why growth for shows like this never lived inside the audio app to begin with. Clips got people in the door. And that discovery data just landed, about to collide with a pricing problem nobody at these networks has actually solved.
Shifting to discovery. Barrett Media covered a new podcast atlas survey this week, and the findings blunt. Clips on social are the top discovery tool for shows now. Not charts, not search. Inside Radio ran the same data Friday. People find you through a 15-second clip on TikTok or YouTube, then open the podcast app days later, already sold. So the audio feed's job changed. It's converting listeners who already decided to show up. Measuring it like a Discovery Channel misreads the funnel. Now the pricing problem. Inside Radio and Podcast News Daily both quoted Acast's U.S. sales chief Ricardo Nito this week. Advertisers want the YouTube view, the TikTok clip, and the audio read priced as one package. Most networks still invoice those three things through three teams, three rate cards, three attribution systems that never talk to each other. Whoever fixes that mismatch first sets the market rate for everyone else. Buyer or seller, somebody's margin is sitting in that gap right now. And the prestige side caught up too. Forbes reported this week that Critics' Choice Association launched its first Creator Awards, putting podcasts in the same category as video and digital series. When the awards circuit quits separating podcast from video, the ad budgets follow the same logic. So before Q4 upfronts, get your team modeling two things: a blended cross-platform rate card, clip, view, and listen priced as one line, not three invoices, and an attribution model that credits the TikTok clip for the conversion instead of only the download that followed it. Walk into that negotiation still pricing audio alone, and you're leaving money on someone else's table. So here's the Monday morning question. Can your team price a bundle like that today? If not, that's the Q4 project.
That wraps this one. Quick gut check before you go. The AMP Accords are promising $1 billion in new ad growth, and I still want proof that money actually moves out of CTV and display instead of just getting relabeled. On the network side, watch iHeart's grip on Triton's June leaderboard. Barely moving month after month, and that tells you who's really winning right now. Forward this one to somebody buying podcast ads next quarter. They need it. Send me your tips, your gripes, your deal intel. The download at heymato.com. Thanks for spending this one with me. Back next week with more numbers, less noise.